Body armor. A ceramic plate on a soldier's chest exists for one reason: to stop what is coming for him. In 2010, the Army recalled 13,500 of them, defective plates worn in combat across Afghanistan and Iraq for up to 18 months. He checked his plate before the patrol, ran his hand across the ceramic face. No cracks, no chips, nothing that told him anything was wrong. He had no way to know. The Army did. The recall came. Whether any soldier was shot before it arrived, that question is what the Army hid. On paper, the recall was handled correctly. Plates pulled, replacements issued. The system worked exactly as designed, on paper. 3 failures built this story, and each one is worse than the one before it. The manufacturing defect inside a plate system the Army was spending $2.5 billion to perfect and had already failed to catch once on this same contractor. A global recall that named the contract numbers but never named the soldiers who had carried those plates into the field. And the question the Army could answer tomorrow, with records that already exist, but no investigator, no committee, and no journalist has ever formally required them to. Kunar Province, Eastern Afghanistan, 2009. An infantryman finishes strapping on his IOTV before stepping out for a dismounted patrol. The setup takes about 3 minutes. Front plate pocket first, a ceramic insert the size of a large dinner plate, contoured to the body's curve, 5.5 pounds of boron carbide and composite backing. He slides it in without looking at the data label on the back. He has no reason to look at it. That label is not decoration. It is the plate's identity, a contract number, a design code, a lot identifier. The Army's own surveillance process depended on being able to trace every plate back to those numbers. 16 months from now, those same identifiers will appear in a global recall message telling units across the world to pull plates just like it from service. He does not know any of that. He steps outside. He has been told his plates are built to stop 30 caliber armor-piercing threats. That is what the Army told his chain of supply. His plates were tested, his vest was issued. He trusts the chain. What nobody in that supply chain was told, the geometry of this plate at the edges does not match the drawing it was built from. Plates from this recall were distributed across 2 active theaters. Some were in Kunar, some were in Helmand, some were in Baghdad and Mosul. The Army knew every contract number. It did not know, or would not say, which units those contract numbers ended up in. That plate was not built out of specification in Afghanistan. It was built out of specification in Chandler, Arizona, and approved by a system that was specifically designed to catch exactly this kind of failure. Every layer of oversight existed to prevent this plate from reaching that pocket. Every layer of oversight failed. The soldier was anonymous. The plate was not. To understand how, you have to understand what an ESAPI plate was supposed to be, what promise it carried, and what 13,500 recalled plates did to that promise. The Army did not create ESAPI because it wanted heavier armor. It created it because the previous plate had met the previous war, and the current war had changed. The Small Arms Protective Insert, SAPI, entered service in 1999 alongside the Interceptor body armor system. Boron carbide or silicon carbide ceramic face bonded to a composite backing designed to stop 3 hits of 7.62 by 51 mm M80 ball ammunition. Medium plate, 4 pounds. The SAPI plate could stop a lot. It could not stop what was killing soldiers in Iraq and Afghanistan by 2004. By that point, the threat class included armor-piercing 7.62 by 54R Russian surplus rounds, fired from weapons like the PKM machine gun and SVD rifle, threats the SAPI was not rated to defeat. The Army's answer was the Enhanced Small Arms Protective Insert, ESAPI. Phased fielding began May 2005. Higher-grade boron carbide ceramic, heavier backing composite, designed to defeat the 30-06 M2AP round, the U.S. military's test surrogate for the armor-piercing threat class its soldiers were actually facing. Medium plate, 5.5 pounds, NIJ Level 4 equivalent. What the ESAPI plate looked like from the outside: a ceramic insert contoured to the torso's curve, roughly the size of a textbook, lighter than it has any right to be given what it is designed to absorb. The boron carbide strike face is harder than almost any material a bullet will encounter. It defeats rounds not by absorbing them, but by fracturing against them, dispersing kinetic energy through controlled failure while the composite backing catches what remains. Done correctly, the soldier behind the plate feels an impact and walks away. 13,500 of these plates were not done correctly. The Army also introduced the Enhanced Side Ballistic Insert, a 7 by 8 inch ceramic side plate that attached under the arms of the improved outer tactical vest. The logic was direct. Insurgents did not shoot from the front. The New York Times reported in 2006 that 42% of Marines killed from torso wounds had died from injuries that better side and underarm coverage could have prevented. The ESBI was the answer to those 42%. A fully configured IOTV with front and back ESAPI plates and 2 ESBI side inserts, approximately 26 pounds of armor. Before the ammunition, before the radio, before the water, before anything that does not already exist specifically to prevent the soldier from being killed. The specification promised coverage. The soldier in helmet carried the weight. What the specification could not guarantee was whether every plate delivering that coverage had been built to the tolerance that made it work. The Army's DLA, the Defense Logistics Agency, managed the ESAPI procurement. By 2011, the aggregate contract portfolio for all ballistic plate inserts covered approximately 5 million inserts across 7 major contracts and $2.5 billion. 13,500 of those plates came from one contract, one factory, one company in Chandler, Arizona. One lot code, one factory. Chandler, Arizona, December 2007. ArmorWorks was founded in 1996 by William Perciably, a former U.S. Army reservist who had spent years at the Army Materials Technology Lab and the Army Ballistic Research Laboratory at Aberdeen Proving Ground. The man who built the company had worked inside the system that defined what body armor was supposed to do. He understood the specifications. He understood the testing protocols. He built a vertically integrated manufacturing company, design, production, and quality control in-house, and he built it around a product whose failure mode he understood better than most. The company's first ESAPI contract, awarded in 2004, was for 51,334 sets of plates at roughly $57 million. That contract became significant before the second one was ever signed. And it is the second contract, not this one, that produced the 13,500 plates. In January 2009, the DoD Inspector General published its findings on DoD testing requirements for body armor. What it found about ArmorWorks' 2004 contract: 3 of 8 plate designs that had officially passed first article testing had not actually passed. The ballistic tests had been improperly scored. The plates had been accepted anyway. They had been shipped. They had been issued. The consequence was a recall of 16,413 sets, ordered by Army Secretary Pete Guerin under a different contract, different lot codes, 2 years before the second recall would arrive. 2 separate recalls, 2 separate failures in the same inspection architecture. Think about that. Not once, twice. The DLA awarded a new ESAPI contract to ArmorWorks in December 2007. Maximum value, $47.1 million. A second option added $21.6 million. Total aggregate value reported at more than $86 million. Ceradyne of Costa Mesa, California, and BAE Systems and Simula Aerospace of Phoenix. 3 vendors, 3 parallel contracts. Combined, they were producing the Army's ESAPI supply for 2 active combat theaters. and an inspection framework that had already certified 3 of 8 defective plate designs as compliant on the prior contract. Here is what the Army said publicly about the recalled plates. The plates were not made according to contract requirements. That is the Army's language. Not a ballistic failure, not a field penetration event, not made according to contract requirements. The Army also said the plates had passed ballistic testing. Those are 2 separate statements, and the gap between them is the entire argument. The ballistic test fires a round at a plate and measures whether it stops it. Passing means the plate stopped the round in a controlled environment at specified velocity against a specified target location on the plate's face. The manufacturing specification describes something different: geometry, tolerances, material properties, the exact shape and construction the plate must have to reliably perform across the full range of conditions a deployed soldier encounters. A plate that passes ballistic testing but fails manufacturing specification is a plate whose real-world performance envelope is unknown. Secondary sources describe the defect as related to the beveled edge, the chamfered geometry at the plate's perimeter that controls how cracks propagate on impact. Correctly built bevels reduce stress concentrations at the corners, manage fragmentation behavior under impact, help the ceramic distribute kinetic energy away from the edges. Out-of-specification bevel geometry narrows that margin. The Army's primary recall documentation identifies the problem by contract number and design codes, DD3V2 and MP2, and directs units to pull every plate with those identifiers regardless of visible condition. Regardless of visible condition. That phrase is the most important one in the recall message. The defect could not be detected by the soldier inspecting his own gear. No visible crack, no chip, no deformation, no surface anomaly. The plate looked correct because the error was in the geometry, wrong dimensions at the edges, invisible without the instruments the production floor used to measure it. He had no way to know. The DoD Inspector General's 2011 report, covering 7 contracts and approximately 5 million inserts and $2.5 billion, found something specific about ArmorWorks' lot acceptance testing process. Plates that were found to be damaged during sampling were replaced without noting the defect. The substitution voided the statistical validity of the test. A representative sample that silently removes its non-conforming items is not a representative sample. It is a compliance document. The inspection system was producing paperwork instead of quality assurance. DCMA, the Defense Contract Management Agency, maintained in-plant quality surveillance at the ArmorWorks facility during this contract. DCMA inspectors were present. Lot acceptance tests were conducted. The required records were completed. The plates shipped. One additional institutional contrast, because the numbers are exact. While 13,500 ESAPI plates were in a combat theater not meeting specification, the Army had simultaneously procured more than 120,000 ESAPI plates, the next-generation threat upgrade, against an armor-piercing threat that Army officials acknowledged never materialized at scale. Program values, the GAO, assessed at more than $8 billion. The plates were produced. They were largely not fielded. More than $8 billion against a hypothetical threat. 13,500 defective plates against the actual one. June 14, 2010. The recall message went out. The Army directed all units globally to inspect their ESAPI plates. Pull any plates matching the contract number and design codes DD3V2 and MP2. Turn them in to the Central Issue Facility. Receive replacement plates under warranty. The Army named the contract, named the design codes, disclosed the count. Approximately 13,500 plates, about 9% of ArmorWorks delivery under this contract. about 1% of the Army's total ESAPI inventory of 1.6 million plates. What the Army's press release did not say: which units, not which brigades, not which division areas of operation, not which forward operating bases, not which soldiers had design code DD3V2 in their carriers when they were in contact with the enemy. The global inspection message told every unit to check their inventory, which means every unit had to look because nobody knew where the plates had gone. The Army described how the defect was found. During routine inspections when soldiers turned in their armor after deployments in Iraq and Afghanistan. After their deployments, the plates were fielded in late 2008. A second option year ran through November 2010. Some of those 13,500 plates were in a soldier's carrier for up to 18 months before the recall went out. 18 months of patrols, of contacts, of vehicle rides over IED-primed roads. Everything a soldier in Helmand or Kunar or Mosul encountered in 2008, 2009, and 2010. The Army's position on casualties, quoted in its own program office documentation and cited in the National Academy's review of body armor testing, is that there have been no known soldier deaths due to small arms attributable to a failure of the issued ceramic body armor. That statement covers all issued ceramic body armor. It is system-wide. It does not state, and has never stated, that no soldier wearing design code DD3V2 was shot while wearing it. That is a different question. The Army's statement answers whether the armor system as a whole failed. It does not answer whether these specific plates, in this specific recall, were on a soldier when a round was fired at him. Those are two different questions. The Army has only answered one of them. The Army had the means to answer the second. Its own Inspector General reports documented a surveillance process that included scanning ballistic inserts before deployment and again during mid-tour checks. Central issue facilities tracked what was drawn, by which unit, when. A sufficiently detailed audit could cross-reference recalled design codes against unit issue records against casualty investigations. No public record I have found shows a formal request from Congress, from the GAO, from a veterans organization, or from a journalist specifically seeking that cross-reference for this recall. The Army has not been required to answer because no one has formally required it. That is the institutional choice, not secrecy and not transparency. Silence by omission, made permanent by the absence of anyone demanding otherwise. ArmorWorks founder William Percivali said, in the period surrounding the recall, "There's some irony. After we'd spoken out against something that we feel is very important, which is proper testing of body armor, we get a recall of our plates." He was right about the irony. A man trained at Aberdeen Proving Ground, a company founded on the conviction that body armor testing mattered. A recall driven by a manufacturing defect that the Army's own testing process had certified as compliant. ArmorWorks survived the recall and continued its DoD contracts. The ArmorSource helmet recall arrived 32 days before the ArmorWorks recall. 126,000 advanced combat helmets pulled after workers concealed manufacturing defects to pass government inspection. Different contractor, same oversight window. 13,500 plates. The Chinese counterfeit infiltration that federal prosecutors documented in 2019, $20 million in fake ballistic components, correct labels, correct lot numbers, used the same supply chain architecture, same DCMA framework, same lot acceptance testing. Each failure was treated as isolated. Each failure was institutional. The soldier was anonymous. The plate was not. 13,500 plates. One publicly unanswered question. A system that has moved on. Eastern Afghanistan, 2009. The same patrol comes back in. The infantryman strips his IOTV, sets the plates down. He does not check the data label. He has never needed to. He trusts the chain. In 1 year, that chain will send a message. Pull any plate with design code DD3V2. Turn it in. He will never know if his were among the 13,500. The Army will not say. This was not the first time the Army treated a soldier's gear problem as a paperwork problem. Dragon skin body armor became a procurement fight. Banned while soldiers were already buying it with their own money. 3M earplugs became a liability case, kept in the supply chain for 2 decades while concerns about the data went unanswered. Scorpion camouflage became a pattern the system already knew how to ignore. Shelved after the Army's own tests showed it was one of the strongest performing patterns it had ever evaluated. Different object, same reflex. When field protection collided with institutional process, the process survived. The full collection is in the playlist on screen. The modular scalable vest is in service today. Better ceramic plates, better coverage, better weight distribution. The same oversight structure approved them. The question the Army has never been formally required to answer has also never gone away. Whether the plate on the chest of a soldier in Kunar Province in 2009 would have stopped the round that was coming for him. The soldier was anonymous. The plate was not. If this made you want to go deeper, the research and source documents behind every WPE video are in the vault, linked in the description. Subscribe for more.